This video is brought to you by SimplySeattle.com. It's the only place to find the world's largest selection of Supersonics gear. They have everything you could imagine to celebrate the Sonics. Autographed pieces for the Rayman and Gary Payton to boot. Shipping all over the world, so let's keep the Sonics dream alive at SimplySeattle.com. Click the link in the description box and get 10% off. Check it out now.
Hey guys, this is Dominique Wilkins.
Hey, this is Sean Kemp.
This is Gary Payton.
Hey, this is Pau Gasol.
NBA fans, what's up? This is Vince Carter here.
Hey, what's up? This is Matt Barnes. If you're an old school NBA fan like I am, make sure you check out the Basketball Time Machine with my man Sean David.
Hey folks, how's it going? Welcome back to the Basketball Time Machine. I'm your host, Sean David. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're ready for some more old school NBA. In today's episode, I want to talk about one of my favorite players of all time, Hakeem "The Dream" Olajuwon, and make a serious case why I personally feel that he's the greatest big of all time. And before you get mad at me, please do me a favor and watch the full video. But before we dive into today's episode, I want to give a quick shout out to my Patreons. Thanks a lot, you guys, for supporting the show. As always, it's really appreciated. Right, enough said, let's go right into today's episode.
Hakeem Olajuwon you should know how good he is when LeBron, Kobe, all these guys go to him for advice and on how to do his footwork. You know, this guy's footwork was some of the most amazing footwork you will ever see. But his tenacity in the gym, I mean, like, you think he was mad during the game. He was even madder during practice if the guys wasn't practicing.
I've never played against, never played with anyone that was that unique. He can guard a guard. He was able to move his feet and be able to be in position and guard a guard. Yeah, let's make him take that 360 fadeaway, half his head behind the backboard. Right, that's the shots he shoot.
And the reason was he was a guy that I couldn't break.
And what it is that he represented at the center position. I mean, he redefined what it was to be an athlete at that spot in much the way that, you know, Chamberlain did with his footwork and athleticism. He was incredible.
Alright, to start off this episode, I want to have a quick summary of the career of Hakeem "The Dream" Olajuwon. Hakeem "The Dream" Olajuwon was the first pick of the legendary 1984 NBA draft selected by the Houston Rockets. This by itself was an incredible accomplishment since Hakeem started to play basketball at the age of 15. Before basketball, his favorite sport was soccer, where he often was the goalkeeper, but this would later be part of the reason why he had such great footwork. After a successful college career in Houston, Hakeem was happy that he could play for the Rockets in his newfound home. This was an interesting choice by the Houston Rockets since they already had a great big in Ralph Sampson. Now the Rockets had two of the best bigs in the entire game. And the Twin Towers were born. Hakeem was performing well right from the start, averaging 20 points, almost 12 rebounds, and 2.7 blocks. In every other season, he would have been the Rookie of the Year if it wasn't for a guy named Michael Jordan, who was averaging 28 points per game. Hakeem, who in college was known for his great defensive skills, worked hard on his offense, and he could see that he was getting better and better. The one thing that made Hakeem stand out to all the other bigs in the league was that he was a complete package. He was not only rebounding and scoring, he was literally able to defend small guards in pick and roll situations. Also, Hakeem would be in the top 10 of steals almost every single year, a category that bigs usually never show up in. In 1986, Hakeem and the Houston Rockets made it to the NBA Finals while they beat the Los Angeles Lakers with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the Western Conference Finals, but at the end they got beaten by the Boston Celtics. The next couple of years, Hakeem turned into the best big of the entire NBA, averaging about 25 to 27 points per game, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 2 steals, while he was always shooting above 50% from the field. Then when Michael Jordan retired for the first time in 1993, Hakeem Olajuwon turned into the best player of the entire NBA, and he would also have his greatest season yet.
1994 was a storybook season. the first time anyone collected the league MVP, defensive player honors, and finals MVP in the same year.
Ewing sets the pick. Stark with a look from three. It's tipped, and it's knocked away, and the Rockets win. Olajuwon with the big tip.
A Game 7 victory over Ewing's Knicks erased the sting of college defeat and an NBA Finals loss in 1986.
And the Houston Rockets are the world champions of 1994.
A year later, the sixth-seeded Rockets pulled off the improbable, winning 4 straight series without home court advantage.
Don't ever underestimate the heart of a champion.
Now for the next part of this video, I want to compare Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon to some of the greatest bigs of all time and see how did he do against some of the players and how would he have done against some of the greatest players. Let's have a look. So the first comparison will be Hakeem Olajuwon versus Patrick Ewing. And while Ewing snatched the title from Olajuwon in college, in the NBA it was looking a little bit different. When we take a look at the stats, you will see that Olajuwon was slightly better in almost every single category. But, and this will apply for all the comparisons, I will take a look at the playoff numbers because this is where it really matters and where we see how great a player really is. Looking at Ewing and Olajuwon's numbers in the playoffs, I think the numbers speak for themselves. And the next comparison on my list is going to be Shaquille O'Neal versus Hakeem Olajuwon. Now here we have to remember that both players had a huge age difference, which means their prime were in different years. So making this claim here is going to be a little bit difficult, but still I will give it a shot. In 1995 in the NBA Finals, Hakeem outplayed Shaq. And don't get me wrong, Shaq was averaging 28 points, so he didn't play bad at all. It's just Hakeem was unbelievable in that series.
One-on-one with O'Neal, backing it up, fade away, 10-foot rainbow. Oh! Unbelievable basketball.
Olajuwon with the bump, the spin, the shot. He's got it!
Another magnificent all-around performance by Hakeem Olajuwon. Olajuwon with a jump hook. What a shot by Hakeem.
So while I could easily say that this series showed that Hakeem was better, I will go a different route and say that Olajuwon was better because he was the more complete basketball player. He had more tools on offense, and defensively, he's the best big of all time next to Bill Russell. Shaq never won the Defensive Player of the Year award, Hakeem did. Hakeem was the way better free throw shooter, which means he's way more valuable in the last minutes of the game. Sorry Shaq, I love you man, but this has to go to Hakeem. And the next one is also going to be the toughest one, Hakeem Olajuwon versus Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Now again, there was a huge age difference between both players, but starting with the regular season, while Kareem was in his mid-30s and Hakeem was in his early 20s, Hakeem outplayed Jabbar. And just because Kareem was in his mid-30s, it don't mean that he was washed up. He still had many 30-plus games, but he just couldn't handle Hakeem. And in the 1986 NBA playoffs, the Rockets defeated the Lakers and Olajuwon dominated Jabbar. If you just compare the two, then you can say that both players had unstoppable weapons, the skyhook and the dream shake. And while Jabbar was the better offensive player, Olajuwon was the better defensive player, being a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year and the only player ever who was in the top 10 in 4 different categories. He was the better shot blocker, and all in all, I don't want to say that Hakeem was the better player, but I feel that if you put the same Lakers players around Hakeem Olajuwon, they would have won the same amount of titles, period. Now last I could go with Will Chamberlain and Bill Russell, but I think it's kinda unfair since it was in a totally different era, and there's no real fair way how I could compare the three. But I still think that Olajuwon would have held his own. So my last pick will be David Robinson. And let me start off by saying that David Robinson is one of the most underrated bigs of all time. He was sensational. But he also had his fair shot against Hakeem Olajuwon. And there's no better example how that turned out than in the 1995 playoffs.
They would bring that attitude next to San Antonio. Awaiting them was the team with the league's best record, the season's most valuable player, and some added motivation.
Congratulations, David Robinson, 1995 NBA MVP.
Especially for Hakeem Olajuwon.
I think deep down inside, with his personal pride, it gave him some extra fire.
Hakeem, who has the heart of a champion, you know he'll respond tonight. He will respond.
Shouldn't have ever given that award out before the series started.
It was a point Hakeem would drive home to David Robinson.
Oh, man!
He didn't know how to guard Hakeem.
If David Robinson is not quick enough to stop you, nobody is.
Dream gave him too many fakes, and I think that's just really frustrating.
I tell you, Olajuwon has David Robinson just bamboozled.
You kind of felt like he could do what he wanted when he wanted.
Robinson is saying, what must I do?
When he made that one shot where he wasn't even looking at the basket, he just finger rolled it behind his head, and when I said, well, somebody's in trouble for them. You know, it's going to be a long night.
Dominating Robinson and the Spurs, Hakeem helped the Rockets win both games in San Antonio, stunning their favorite opponent.
And the Rockets will go home looking to sweep the team with the best record in ball when the playoffs began.
I mean, I don't even know how I can say it with a straight face, but I thought most of the time I defended him pretty well. The man just played, I mean, as well as I've seen anybody play in a long time.
Alright, you guys, that was it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and also like the video if you enjoyed the content. And also don't forget, very important, don't forget to check out simplyseattle.com for all of the greatest Seattle Supersonics gear. Alright, you guys, you all be healthy, take care, and goodbye.